Hello there, and welcome to the Sleepy Science Channel. Tonight, we're heading beneath the surface of the Earth, into a realm that almost never asks for attention, yet helps shape forests, fields, rivers, and the food on your plate. Roots may seem still and simple, but they are among the most remarkable structures in nature. They can sense gravity and water, break apart solid stone, form partnerships with mushrooms, and build hidden networks that connect the landscape. Beneath every tree, every flower, and every blade of grass, there is a second world at work. It stores food, feeds the soil, and sends life upward into leaves, fruits, and seeds. Some roots plunge astonishing depths, while others spread wide as living webs. Some can even breathe, climb, and survive fire. If you enjoy these gentle journeys, I invite you to like, subscribe, or share a thought below. It helps others find their way here too, one sleepy soul at a time. But for now, all you need to do is relax. Let your shoulders soften and allow your breathing to slow. And allow your mind to gently unwind as we explore this fascinating hidden world together. Let's begin. Roots can sense gravity and choose to grow downward without eyes. At the very tip, there is a tiny command center that helps a plant decide where to grow next. Special cells contain dense starch grains that settle with gravity, almost like microscopic pebbles in a snow globe. As they shift, the plant redistributes growth hormones and bends itself in the right direction. That means a seed can be flipped, buried sideways, or disturbed by rain, and still send its first underground growth into the earth, while the shoot rises upward. It is a decision made without a brain, without nerves, and without sight. Even more astonishing, this response begins almost as soon as germination starts. The plant is not wandering blindly. It is reading a force that reaches through the whole planet. Long before leaves unfold in sunlight, the first great act of a young plant is orientation. In darkness, in silence, it feels the pull of earth and answers it. Some roots trade sugars for minerals in underground deals. A plant can make sugar from sunlight, but it cannot photosynthesize phosphorus or pull enough nitrogen from poor soil on its own. So beneath the surface, it enters one of nature's most extraordinary partnerships. Fungi wrap around or even enter the outer tissues, extending outward in threads far finer than the plant could ever grow itself. Those fungal filaments explore tiny pockets of soil and gather scarce nutrients and water. In return, the plant sends down a share of the sugars it made in the light. It is an exchange between two kingdoms of life, and it has helped shape ecosystems for hundreds of millions of years. Many forests depend on these partnerships so deeply that seedlings struggle without them. What looks like an isolated tree is often part of a constant negotiation, paying for services with carbon made in its leaves. Beneath the ground, the economy of life is already running long before anyone notices. A tree often mirrors its visible world with an unseen one below. When we picture a great tree, we think of height, crown, and branches spread against the sky. But a vast share of its real life is below our notice. The underground structure may extend astonishing distances, with fine branching networks reaching through huge volumes of soil in search of water and dissolved nutrients. The thick anchoring parts are only the beginning. Beyond them lies an enormous mesh of smaller growth, and beyond that, countless root hairs that briefly appear, absorb, and vanish. Taken together, this hidden architecture can equal or even exceed the spread of the canopy. It also changes constantly as soil dries, seasons shift, and the tree invests in new areas or abandons old ones. That means a tree is not simply standing in one place. It is exploring, It is probing its world in every direction at once. The stillness we admire above ground is supported by restless activity in the dark below. Certain roots can break solid rock, grain by grain. It is easy to imagine roots as soft things that yield to stone, yet over time they can become agents of demolition. A tiny crack in rock is enough. A seed settles, moisture arrives, and a young plant sends growth into the opening. As that living wedge thickens, it pushes outward with steady pressure. Temperature changes and water help widen the fracture, and the plant adds chemistry to force. Some release acids and other compounds that loosen minerals from the rock itself, weakening the structure grain by grain. Over years, then centuries, hard surfaces split, fragments accumulate, and the first thin soil begins to form. This is one reason living worlds can spread into places that once seemed bare and impossible. Roots do not smash stone in a dramatic moment. They do something more impressive. They alter landscapes through persistence. Mountain faces, cliffs, and boulders all eventually meet this patient pressure from life working in silence. Roots can warn neighboring plants about danger in the soil. A plant under attack is not always as alone as it looks. When roots are damaged by hungry insects, parasitic worms, or harmful microbes, chemical signals can move into the surrounding soil and sometimes through underground partnerships to nearby plants. Those neighbors may respond by changing their own chemistry before the threat reaches them. They can strengthen defenses, alter growth, or prepare tissues that are harder for attackers to exploit. In some cases, plants even release compounds that attract helpful organisms, turning the soil around them into a kind of defensive zone. This means the underground world is not just about feeding and anchoring. It is also about information. A threat below ground can ripple outward before there is any visible sign above. The field may look calm. The garden may seem still. Yet beneath it, messages may already be moving from one root system to another, giving advance notice that trouble is coming through the dark. The largest root systems can outlive entire forests. Sometimes the oldest part of a landscape is not the trunks you see, but the living network hidden beneath them. In clonal plants such as craking aspen, many separate stems can rise from one shared underground system, all genetically the same individual. A grove may look like a crowd of trees, yet below ground it can be one organism sending up new trunks again and again across centuries, even millennia. Fire can sweep through and remove the visible forest. Storms can snap the stems. Insects can strip the leaves. Yet the deeper structure remains alive, holding stored energy and waiting for its moment to rise once more. That changes the way you see a woodland. What seems temporary above may be only the latest expression of something far older and more persistent below. In that sense, a forest can die and return, while the same hidden individual continues, patient and enduring, under the soil. The food on your plate begins with unseen root decisions. Before there is a tomato, a grain of wheat, or an apple on a branch, there is a constant series of choices unfolding underground. A plant must decide where to invest energy, whether to push deeper for water, spread sideways for nutrients, or conserve resources during stress. If it misjudges the soil, the harvest suffers long before any leaf shows the problem. Farmers and gardeners see the consequences in size, flavor, resilience, and yield, but much of that story starts when no one is looking. A cereal crop with efficient uptake can turn poor soil into a decent harvest. A vegetable with weak underground growth may struggle even in bright sun. This is why breeders are now paying closer attention to what happens below ground, not just what shows above it. The future of food may depend as much on hidden architecture and timing as on rain or weather. Every meal begins with a plant making smart decisions in darkness. Some desert roots chase water deeper than a building is tall. In deserts, survival depends on finding moisture where almost none remains, and some plants answer that challenge with astonishing depth. Certain species send a main root downward through cracks and loose sediments until it reaches water stored far below the reach of surface heat. These systems can descend tens of meters, deeper than many buildings are tall, tapping hidden reserves that never appear at the surface. Mesquite is one of the most famous examples, with roots recorded at extraordinary depths in arid ground. That kind of reach transforms the way a plant lives. While shallow vegetation waits desperately for brief rain, a deep-rooted desert plant can remain connected to a slower, steadier source. It becomes less a prisoner of the weather above. Yet, there is a cost. Sending growth that far down takes time, energy, and precision. In one of the harshest environments on Earth, life survives by drilling patiently toward an invisible supply in the dark. Roots help plants conquer land and transform the whole planet. There was a time when Earth's land was barren rock, mud, and microbial films with no forests, no meadows, and no shade. Early plants changed that world, and one of their greatest tools was the ability to anchor and forage below ground. Once roots and root-like structures spread through the surface, they stabilized sediments, accelerated the breakdown of rock, and helped create true soils that could hold water and nutrients. That opened the door for larger plants, richer ecosystems, and eventually animals that depended on them. As vegetation expanded, it also influenced the atmosphere by drawing down carbon dioxide and reshaping the carbon cycle over immense spans of time. Rivers changed. Weathering changed. The land itself became more complex and alive. So this is not a small botanical detail. The rise of underground plant structures helped turn continents into habitable, fertile worlds. In a real sense, roots helped remake the planet we inherited. Root tips grow through soil using living caps as shields. At the front of each advancing tip is a small helmet of cells that takes the punishment so the rest can keep moving. As the plant presses through packed ground, grit, and sharp mineral edges, those outer cells are scraped away and replaced continuously from behind. They also release slippery mucilage that helps the tip slide between particles instead of tearing itself apart. This means the growing point can stay protected while it pushes deeper into a world that is far rougher than it looks. Soil is not soft from a plant's perspective. It is a maze of boulders, gaps, dry pockets, microbes, and abrasive fragments. Yet the tip keeps advancing with a kind of biological engineering, sacrificing one layer to preserve another. That tiny protective cap is one reason a seedling can force its way into darkness, begin to anchor itself, and survive the hostile first journey through the ground. The finest roots are often thinner than a human hair. The smallest parts are where much of the real work happens. These delicate threads slip into narrow spaces that thicker structures could never enter, exploring films of moisture wrapped around grains of soil. They are so slender, so soft, and so short-lived that most people never see them, yet they form an enormous contact zone between plant and earth. A single tree or grass clump may produce a vast cloud of these fragile filaments, constantly renewing them as conditions change. Some die back when soil dries. Others appear quickly after rain or during a burst of growth. They are not built to last for years. They are built to search, sample, and seize opportunity. In effect, a plant surrounds itself with a temporary living mist underground, always adjusting its reach. What looks like a simple root system from a distance becomes, up close, a world of astonishing finesse and scale. Some roots store enough food to survive an entire winter. When autumn light begins to fade, many plants do something that looks almost magical. They send the wealth of summer downward and hide it underground. Sugars made in leaves are moved into swollen storage tissues where they are converted into starch and packed away for the hard months ahead. That buried reserve becomes a private pantry. It keeps the plant alive when cold shuts down growth above ground, when leaves fall, and when the landscape seems lifeless. Then spring arrives, and before new leaves can gather fresh energy, that hidden store is spent on survival and escape. Shoots rise, flowers appear, and entire bursts of early growth are funded by food saved months before. This is how tulips bloom after winter, how many perennials return, and how some plants can start fast enough to outrun rivals. Beneath a quiet patch of soil, there may be enough stored sunlight waiting to power a season's comeback. Beneath every quiet forest lies a crowded world of roots. Walk through a woodland and it can seem spacious, even peaceful, with trunks standing apart and leaves moving overhead. But the ground below tells a different story. Countless underground branches overlap, weave past one another, and occupy the same soil in a dense contest for water, minerals, oxygen, and room. Tree roots share space with shrubs, wildflowers, fungi, bacteria, insects, worms, and all the decaying remains that feed the next cycle of growth. Some roots remain near the surface to capture nutrients released from leaf litter. Others dive deeper. Some race into openings created by fallen trees or rotting logs. Others persist in old pathways left by generations before them. It is not empty earth. It is a living city without light, crowded with exchange, conflict, alliance, decay, and renewal. The calm beauty of a forest floor is real, but it rests above a hidden world so busy and interconnected that it never truly sleeps. Mangrove roots can breathe in mud that would suffocate most plants. Coastal mud can be rich in salt, low in oxygen, and deadly to ordinary underground tissues. Yet mangroves colonize these margins by building structures that turn a suffocating swamp into habitable ground. Some species send up pencil-like spikes from the submerged system, while others arch into exposed supports that rise above the tide. Through pores in these surfaces, air can enter and move into tissues below, helping the plant survive where normal roots would effectively drown. This is one reason mangrove forests can stand in places that seem impossible for trees. They are not merely tolerating the coast. They are engineered for it. Their breathing structures also help stabilize shorelines, slow waves, and create nursery habitat for fish and crabs. So when you look at a mangrove, you are seeing more than a tree. You are seeing a solution to mud, salt, and flooding, written into living architecture at the edge of sea and land. Orchid roots can live in air, rain, and drifting mist. Many orchids do not grow in soil at all. They perch on branches high above the ground, anchored to bark while their exposed roots hang into the humid air. These pale, ghostly structures are wrapped in a spongy outer layer called velamen, which can absorb water with astonishing speed when rain, fog, or dew arrives. In dry moments, that same layer helps reduce water loss and shields the tissues beneath. Some of these aerial roots can even photosynthesize, adding another layer to their strange and elegant design. This means an orchid can live in a place where there is almost no ordinary soil, gathering moisture from passing weather and nutrients from dust, decaying debris, and runoff on tree surfaces. It is a completely different vision of underground life, turned upward into the open air. What seems delicate is actually a brilliant adaptation, allowing orchids to occupy branches, cliffs, and trunks where few other flowering plants can thrive. Banyan trees can grow roots downward from their branches. A banyan does not always stop with one trunk. From heavy limbs above, Long cords descend through the air toward the ground like slow-motion bridges under construction. When they finally touch soil, they thicken, harden, and become supportive columns in their own right. Over time, one tree can produce so many of these descending structures that it seems to turn itself into a grove. Walk beneath an old banyan, and you may feel as though you are inside a living cathedral, surrounded not by separate trees, but by one organism multiplying its supports across a widening area. This gives the crown extraordinary reach and stability, allowing branches to extend farther than a single trunk could safely bear. It also changes the tree's identity in a profound way. Instead of simply standing in one place, it spreads by dropping new pillars from the sky, building its own forest from above, downward. Corn grows brace roots that act like living supports. If you look closely at a corn plant, you may see thick roots emerging from the lower stem above the soil surface, angling downward like the legs of a machine. These are not a mistake or a sign of damage. They are a built-in support system. As the plant shoots upward and begins to carry heavy leaves and developing ears, those above-ground roots enter the soil and help anchor the whole structure against wind and rain. In a crowded field where tall stems sway together and storms can flatten acres, that extra stability can make the difference between standing and collapse. Some also take up water and nutrients once established, so they do more than brace. They become working parts of the plant's supply network. Corn is often treated as ordinary because it is familiar, yet this feature reveals an elegant bit of engineering. The plant grows extra legs precisely when height begins to make balance a problem. Some roots pull bulbs deeper into the ground by contract. Certain plants do not leave their underground organs wherever chance first placed them. Instead, they adjust their position with a remarkable trick. Special roots shorten after they grow, wrinkling and contracting in a way that drags bulbs, corms, or young stems deeper into the soil. This helps place the plant at a safer depth, where temperature is steadier, moisture lasts longer, and exposure to surface hazards is reduced. A bulb started too shallow may risk freezing, overheating, or drying out. By pulling itself down, the plant corrects the problem without any external help. It is a kind of subterranean self-burial, slow but purposeful. Lilies and other geophytes use this strategy to settle into the level that best suits their survival. The idea is astonishing once you picture it clearly. A plant can not only grow downward, it can reposition its own hidden body underground, inch by inch, until it reaches safety. Root hairs do most of the drinking, not the thick roots. The large woody parts may look impressive, but most water enters through structures so tiny they are almost invisible. Along young zones near the tip, countless microscopic hairs extend from surface cells into the thin films of moisture-coating soil particles. This vastly increases the absorbing area, turning a modest piece of root into a giant interface with the ground. Without these hairs, uptake would be far less efficient. They are delicate and temporary, easily lost if soil dries or is disturbed. Yet plants produce them in huge numbers because they are so effective. In practical terms, the thick parts are more like highways and anchors, while these tiny projections handle much of the intimate contact with the soil itself. That changes the scale of the story. The drinking is not done by a few major structures. It is carried out by a vast army of microscopic extensions, each reaching into darkness for a thin sheen of water. Many plants grow two root systems at the same time. Some grasses and crops begin life with one set, then replace or supplement it with another built for a different stage. The first system comes from the embryo inside the seed and helps the young plant establish itself quickly. Later, new roots emerge from the stem base and form a second network that can take over much of the work as the plant grows larger. In crops such as cereals, This handoff is crucial. The early system gets the seedling started, but the later one supports the full size, weight, and long-term demand of the mature plant. It is a clever division of labor across time. Rather than relying on one design from beginning to end, the plant changes its underground strategy as its needs change. That means a single individual may live through two distinct phases: below ground, first as a vulnerable sprout, then as a much larger organism equipped with an entirely expanded support network. Deep roots can keep grasslands alive through brutal drought. On the surface, a prairie can look exposed and fragile, all stems and leaves under hard sun and dry wind. Yet much of its power lies below, where many species invest heavily in depth. When the topsoil turns to dust and shallow moisture disappears, those deeper structures can still tap reserves beyond the reach of quick drying. That is one reason grasslands often recover after conditions that would devastate more shallowly rooted vegetation. Even when the surface browns, life may still be active below, holding on, waiting, and preparing to surge back with the next rain. These underground systems also help grasslands survive grazing and fire, because the real engine is not only above ground. It is protected beneath the surface. In some prairies, the mass below can exceed what stands above. So what seems like a simple field is actually a durable, deeply anchored system designed to endure long periods of hardship and return with astonishing speed. Some roots release acids that dissolve minerals from stone. A plant does not have to wait passively for nutrients to wash free. In some soils, it can change the chemistry around itself by releasing compounds that loosen tightly bound minerals from rock and particles. Organic acids, protons, and other exudates alter the immediate environment near the surface, helping free elements such as phosphorus, iron, and other nutrients that would otherwise remain locked away. This means the root zone becomes not just a place of absorption, but a place of active chemical attack. A plant is, in effect, mining the ground. It does this quietly, molecule by molecule, reshaping the availability of the material around it. Over long timescales, that process contributes to weathering and soil formation. On a smaller scale, it can determine whether a plant thrives in poor ground or starves in it. Beneath the stillness of a hillside, chemistry is being used as a tool of hunger and survival. Roots can steer around obstacles before touching them directly. Growth underground is not just blind pushing. In many cases, a tip can respond to cues that reveal what lies ahead, changing direction before it physically meets a barrier. Differences in moisture, density, vibration, chemical gradients, and even tiny changes in contact through surrounding particles can shape its path. The result is a form of navigation that feels almost uncanny. A root can bend away from compacted zones, angle toward richer patches, or slide around stones through the path of least resistance. This does not mean the plant is thinking in the human sense, but it does mean it is constantly sensing and adjusting while it grows. Soil becomes less like a simple medium and more like a three-dimensional puzzle. Every turn matters. Every delay costs energy. So the ability to redirect early can greatly improve the odds of success. What seems motionless from above is, below ground, a continuous act of responsive exploration. Certain plants recognize their own roots and grow differently nearby. Not every neighbor is treated the same. Experiments suggest that some plants can distinguish between their own underground tissues and those of strangers, or at least respond differently depending on kinship and chemical familiarity. When surrounded by unrelated individuals, they may invest more in competitive spread, probing harder for space and resources. Near their own tissues, or sometimes near close relatives, the response can be less aggressive. The exact mechanisms are still being studied, but the implications are remarkable. A plant may not just sense soil and water. It may also detect identity. That means the underground world includes something like social context, where growth is shaped not only by the environment, but by who is already there. In dense vegetation, this could influence how plants divide territory, share risk, or escalate competition. The field may appear like a peaceful patch of green, yet below it, individuals may be adjusting their behavior, depending on whether the neighbors feel like self or other. Root pressure can push sap upward before sunrise begins. Long before the day warms and leaves begin pulling water upward through evaporation, some plants can generate an upward push from below. By actively loading ions into their vascular tissues, they lower water potential inside and draw water in from the surrounding soil. That influx creates positive pressure, which can move fluid upward through the stem even in the dark. Sometimes the effect is dramatic enough to produce guttation, where droplets appear at leaf edges in the early morning, not from dew, but from internal pressure forcing water out. Vine stems and cut shoots can even bleed sap under the right conditions. This is a reminder that upward movement in plants is not driven by a single process. The system can push as well as pull. Before sunrise, before wind, before transpiration fully wakes the canopy, underground tissues may already be building pressure and sending fluid into the body above. The day's circulation can begin in darkness from below. Sugar beets turn sunlight into giant underground energy stores. In a single growing season, this crop can turn a flat field into a landscape of buried sweetness. The leaves gather light and build sugars through photosynthesis. Then a huge portion of that energy is moved downward and packed into a swollen storage root. By harvest time, each plant has become a compact vault of concentrated chemical energy, dense enough to be worth lifting by the ton. This is why sugar beet became so important to human history. It allowed temperate regions far from tropical cane fields to produce large amounts of sugar from the ground beneath their feet. What makes it fascinating biologically is the scale of the transformation. A modest seed becomes a machine for catching sunlight and burying it as food. The result looks plain from the outside, dusty and heavy. But inside, it holds the converted brightness of an entire season. Few crops show so clearly how plants can turn light into underground abundance. Cassava roots feed millions, but raw ones can be dangerous. This crop is one of the great hidden pillars of human survival. Across tropical regions, cassava provides calories for hundreds of millions of people because it can produce reliable underground harvests even where soils are poor and weather is harsh. Its storage roots are rich in starch, and in difficult conditions that reliability can matter more than luxury. Yet there is a twist that makes the plant even more remarkable. In its raw form, cassava contains compounds that can release cyanide. That means the same plant that sustains families can also harm them if it is not processed correctly. Traditional cultures developed careful methods to soak, grate, ferment, dry, or cook it, transforming danger into nourishment through knowledge passed across generations. It is a striking example of how human history and plant biology meet. Beneath the soil lies not just food, but a relationship between chemistry, survival, and the learned wisdom needed to unlock it safely. Sweet potatoes are storage roots, not true tubers. They may resemble potatoes in the kitchen, but they come from a different part of the plant body and tell a different evolutionary story. A sweet potato forms by thickening certain roots into enlarged reservoirs of starch and sugars. A true potato forms from an underground stem. That difference affects everything from anatomy to propagation. A sweet potato lacks the eyes and nodes that mark a stem, and its development reflects a root being transformed into a food store rather than a shoot being modified below ground. Once you notice this, the familiar name becomes slightly misleading. two famous crops that seem closely related in habit are actually using separate botanical solutions to solve the problem of storage. It is another reminder that nature loves convergence. Different structures can arrive at similar outcomes if the need is great enough. Under the soil, resemblance does not always mean kinship. Sometimes it means two inventions that merely happen to taste good. Some roots become swollen vaults packed with starch and water. In harsh landscapes and seasonal climates, survival often depends on banking resources when times are good. Some plants answer by enlarging parts of their underground system into dense reserves filled with starch, water, and other compounds that can be drawn upon later. These hidden stores support flowering, regrowth, drought survival, or recovery after damage. They can turn a seemingly modest plant into something far more powerful than it looks, because the visible portion may represent only a fraction of the total investment. During favorable periods, the plant is quietly filling its underground vault. During hardship, it lives off what it saved. This strategy appears in many forms across the plant world, from wild species in dry habitats to crops selected by humans for their edible bulk. Once you start seeing these structures for what they are, they become almost heroic. They are not just swollen tissues. They are time capsules of stored possibility, buried for the moment they are needed most. Redwood roots are shallow, yet they help hold giants upright. Coast redwoods can rise taller than many buildings, yet their underground reach often remains surprisingly close to the surface. They do not usually send one enormous taproot deep into the earth. Instead, they spread wide through the upper soil, where oxygen and moisture are more available. What keeps them standing is not depth alone, but interconnection. Their roots can overlap and graft with neighbors, forming a woven base beneath the forest floor. In groves, this creates a kind of living mesh that helps the giants resist wind and shifting ground together. It is a beautiful reversal of what many people expect. The tallest trees on Earth are not anchored like spikes driven downward. They are held by breadth, flexibility, and community. A redwood forest stands not just because each tree is strong, but because many hidden systems knit together below the needles, the fog, and the silence of the coastal woods. Giant sequoias stand through storms with surprisingly modest roots. These immense trees can weigh thousands of tons and live for millennia, yet their underground systems are often far less deep than people imagine. Giant sequoias usually root within the upper layers of soil, extending outward rather than plunging dramatically downward. At first, that sounds impossible. How could something so vast remain standing through winter storms, snow load, and centuries of weather with such limited depth? The answer lies in spread, strength, and time. Their roots can occupy a broad area, and the trees often grow where the ground itself is stable enough to support such weight. Their colossal trunks also taper upward in ways that help distribute stress. A sequoia is not a tower balanced on a peg. It is a massive living form matched to its landscape over ages of trial and selection. That hidden base may seem modest beside the trunk, but it is precisely enough for one of the grandest organisms Earth has ever grown. Carrots are roots, but potatoes are something else entirely. They both grow underground, they both store energy, and they both end up on dinner plates. But botanically, they are built from very different body parts. A carrot is a true storage root. It develops from the underground axis that first emerged from the seed, thickening into a tapering reservoir packed with food. A potato, by contrast, is a swollen stem called a tuber. That is why it has buds, the little eyes that can sprout into new shoots. Those eyes are stem nodes, something a true root does not have. Once you know that, the difference becomes almost startling. One is an expanded root, doing the work of storage. The other is a modified stem hiding below ground and carrying the architecture of shoots. This matters far beyond vocabulary. It reveals how evolution solves the same problem in different ways, using separate parts of the plant body to store energy, survive hardship, and begin again. Aspen groves can share one ancient root system underground. A stand of trembling aspens can look like a gathering of individual trees, each with its own trunk, crown, and shimmering leaves. Yet in some groves, what appears to be many is actually one. New stems arise from an older underground system, but sends up shoots again and again, creating a colony of genetically identical trunks. When one stem ages, breaks, or burns, others can rise in its place from the same buried source. This means a grove may persist across astonishing spans of time, even though the visible trees are much younger. The famous colony known as Pando in Utah has become an emblem of this idea. A woodland that may represent one living individual spread across a large area. That transforms the way you hear the leaves in the wind. It is no longer simply a grove. It is one organism speaking through many trunks, renewing itself from below long after any single stem has passed. One famous fig can cover acres using roots alone. In India, the great banyan of the Acharya Jagadish Chandra Bose Botanical Garden has become so vast that from a distance it resembles a small forest more than a single tree. Its spreading branches have sent down countless aerial roots over time, and many of those have thickened into trunk-like supports after reaching the ground. The result is extraordinary. One individual has expanded across acres, creating the illusion of many separate trees standing together. People can walk beneath it as though entering a grove, yet they are still inside one organism's reach. Storms have damaged parts of it, and its original central trunk has long since been lost, but the wider structure continues through its rooted pillars. It is one of the clearest examples on Earth of a tree turning branches into architecture. Instead of stopping at a single stem, it has used descending roots to redraw the scale of what one tree can become. A single root network can connect many trunks into one organism. In clonal species, the visible stems are sometimes better understood as repeated expressions of one hidden body, rather than independent individuals. Underground connections allow energy, water, and growth signals to move through a shared system, linking many trunks that rise at different points across the landscape. This can make a woodland behave less like a crowd and more like a colony. Damage in one area does not necessarily end the organism, because the larger network can continue functioning and produce new shoots elsewhere. It also changes the meaning of age. A trunk may be young, while the organism itself is ancient. What seems separate above can be joined below in a way that completely alters the story. The forest floor becomes the true map of identity. You can stand among many stems and still be standing inside one living being, spread out through the soil, expressing itself in repeated forms across space and time. Some clonal plants survive by spreading underground instead of seeding. Seeds are powerful inventions, but they are not the only path to persistence. Many plants hedge their bets by expanding sideways below ground through rhizomes, suckering roots, or other hidden structures that produce new shoots nearby. This allows them to occupy ground steadily, even when pollinators are scarce, weather is poor, or seedlings would struggle to survive. Instead of starting over from a tiny, vulnerable beginning, the new shoot is backed by an established system that already has resources and territory. In grasslands, wetlands, and forests, this can make certain species astonishingly resilient. They creep outward quietly, sometimes for decades, and what looks like a patch becomes a slowly enlarging clone. It is a different philosophy of survival. Rather than sending offspring into uncertainty, the plant extends itself into the landscape directly. Under the soil, it advances in patient increments, turning persistence into expansion and making hidden growth a route to long life. Prairie roots can plunge deeper than the height of the grass. A grassland may look low and open, but much of its true scale is buried. Many prairie species invest in extraordinary depth, sending roots far below the waving tops that people notice first. A plant only waist-high above ground may reach meters into the soil below, and in some cases much more. This hidden depth is one reason prairies can endure heat, grazing, and variable rainfall better than their appearance suggests. They are not superficial carpets. They are deeply anchored systems built for uncertainty. Those long descending structures also store carbon, feed soil communities, and help stabilize the ground through drought and storm. When settlers first plowed North American prairies, the dense underground mass was one of the reasons the sod was so difficult to break. Beneath the open sky was a world of tenacity. The apparent simplicity of grass concealed a subterranean architecture so extensive that it shaped ecosystems and human history alike. In tundra soil, roots race sideways because the ground stays frozen. In the far north, the problem is not only cold air. It is the frozen layer beneath the surface that acts like a hard boundary below the thawed zone. During the brief growing season, only the upper active layer softens enough for roots to occupy it. Deeper down, permafrost remains locked and inaccessible. That forces plants to grow laterally through a thin band of workable ground, spreading wide rather than diving deep. It is a striking example of climate shaping form. In warmer regions, descent can be an advantage. In tundra, sideways speed may matter more. This shallow arrangement also means the ecosystem is especially sensitive to disturbance. A small change in temperature or surface damage can affect the narrow living zone where roots, microbes, and water all interact. So, when you picture Arctic vegetation, think less of depth and more of strategy. Life there is laid out like a thin, woven skin across frozen earth. Alpine plants hide much of their life below the wind. High mountains punish anything exposed. The air is thin, the growing season is short, and freezing winds can scour the surface with relentless force. Many alpine plants meet that challenge by keeping a large share of their living investment tucked below the ground, where temperature is more stable and physical damage is reduced. Above the surface, they may appear tiny, hugging the earth in compact cushions or low rosettes. Below, they can maintain substantial storage tissues and anchoring structures that help them survive long winters and sudden summer stress. This hidden balance allows them to explode briefly into growth when conditions permit, then retreat into protection again. What looks small is often anything but weak. An alpine flower blooming beside rock and snow may be supported by years of carefully protected underground reserves. In harsh mountain landscapes, modesty above ground can be a sign of mastery, with the real strength concealed beneath the gravel and thawing earth. Rainforest roots often spread wide because nutrients stay near the surface. In many tropical forests, the richest feeding zone is not deep underground but close to the surface, where warm temperatures and constant moisture cause fallen leaves and other organic matter to break down rapidly. Nutrients released there are taken up quickly, so plants that want to compete successfully often concentrate much of their foraging in this upper layer. That helps explain why many rainforest trees spread their roots broadly through shallow soil instead of relying on great depth. The forest floor may look thin and poor, yet it is the site of intense recycling. Leaves fall, decay begins almost at once, and hidden networks move in fast to capture what becomes available. This creates a remarkable economy of speed. Nutrients do not linger for long. They are caught, reused, and folded back into living tissue. A giant tree in the rainforest may owe its height not to deep mining below, but to quick, efficient feeding near the surface. buttress roots help giant tropical trees stand in thin soil. In many tropical forests, some of the most spectacular trees rise from flaring wooden walls, but look almost sculpted by an architect. These are buttress roots, broad vertical plates extending from the lower trunk into the surrounding ground. They help support huge trees in places where the soil may be shallow. Nutrient cycling is concentrated near the surface, and deep anchoring is less practical than people assume. The buttresses increase stability by spreading force over a wider area, helping the tree resist toppling in storms while maintaining a towering crown above. They may also guide leaf litter and water toward the base, adding to the activity around the trunk. To stand beside one is to realize that a tree can solve engineering problems in plain sight. The lower trunk becomes a system of living fins and braces. In the dim green light of the rainforest, these great flanges make the hidden mathematics of balance suddenly visible. Stilt roots lift some trees above unstable, shifting ground. In flooded forests, muddy deltas, and loose tropical soils, stability can be hard to achieve with a single vertical base. Some plants solve that challenge by growing angled supports from the stem down into the ground, creating a raised, many-legged stance that spreads weight and improves anchorage. Pandanus and some mangroves are famous for this architecture. The effect can be dramatic. A trunk seems to stand on stilts, elevated above waterlogged or unstable earth, as if lifted by intention. This does more than help the plant remain upright. It can also keep the stem above flooding, improve gas exchange in difficult conditions, and create space beneath that alters the surrounding habitat. The form is so striking because it feels almost animal, as though the tree has grown legs to cope with the landscape. In truth, it is another beautiful example of plants turning structural necessity into something that looks almost impossible at first glance. New metaphors rise like snorkels from swampy roots to gather oxygen. In waterlogged ground, ordinary underground tissues face a serious problem. Oxygen diffuses slowly through saturated mud, and respiration can become difficult or impossible. Some swamp plants and mangroves answer by sending specialized projections upward out of the submerged system. These vertical spikes rise into the air where gases are easier to access, allowing oxygen to enter through pores and move into the hidden tissues below. Seen in large numbers, they can make the mud look as though it is bristling with wooden fingers. It is a wonderfully strange sight, part forest and part breathing apparatus. Each projection is a solution to suffocation, a way for life to maintain itself in terrain that might drown ordinary roots. Once you understand their purpose, a swamp becomes more than a wet landscape. It becomes a place where trees have effectively grown snorkels from the ground, turning respiration into visible architecture across the tidal flats and marshy edges. Some parasitic plants steal through roots they never truly earned. Not every plant gathers its own living honestly. Some attach to the underground systems of others and siphon away water, minerals, and even manufactured food without doing the full work themselves. They form specialized organs called haustoria that penetrate host tissues and connect to the transport pathways inside. From that moment, the parasite begins living partly or wholly at another plant's expense. This can be subtle or devastating depending on the species involved. Certain broom rapes and related forms spend much of their lives hidden below ground, emerging only when it is time to reproduce. Above the surface, a field may look healthy until patches suddenly fail because unseen thieves have been feeding from below. It is one of the darker twists in plant life. Beneath the calm order of roots and soil, there can be exploitation as real as anything in the animal world. A plant's hidden wealth may not remain its own for long. Dodder taps plant plumbing, but its first anchor begins below. Dodder is famous for its thread-like stems that coil around hosts and invade them, But the story begins in a more vulnerable way than many people realize. A dodder seed germinates in the soil and must make brief contact with the ground like any ordinary plant. It sends out a tiny initial anchor and lives off limited reserves while searching rapidly for a host above. Guided by chemical cues in the air, it swings and grows until it finds a suitable plant to wrap. Once connection is made, it inserts feeding structures and can abandon its original tie to the soil altogether. That early underground moment is fleeting, but it is crucial. The parasite begins with a small, temporary foothold in the earth before switching to a life of theft in the stems of others. It is a dramatic transition, from independent beginning to dependent invasion, compressed into a race against time at the start of life. Mistletoe's hidden connections invade branches like root-shaped thieves. Most people notice mistletoe as a festive tuft hanging in a tree, but the real drama is inside the branch. After a sticky seed lands and germinates, the young parasite penetrates the host's outer tissues and develops structures that spread inward and along the wood. These are not true roots in the usual sense, yet they behave in root-like ways, seeking access to water and dissolved nutrients moving through the branch. Over time, the parasite becomes embedded in its host's plumbing, drawing sustenance while remaining attached high above the ground. That means a tree can carry a quiet intruder in its limbs for years, sometimes with little obvious warning at first. What looks like a harmless clump in winter branches is actually the visible crown of a hidden internal system. The theft is elegant and persistent. In the stillness of the canopy, one plant has entered another and turned its branch into a source of stolen life. Strangler figs begin high, then send roots to the earth. A strangler fig often begins not in the soil, but in the canopy. A seed dropped by a bird lodges in a crack high on another tree, where it germinates as an epiphyte far above the forest floor. At first, it lives on trapped debris and moisture. Then comes the decisive move. Long roots descend through the air toward the ground, and once they arrive, the young fig gains access to a far larger supply of water and nutrients. From there, it can grow rapidly, sending more descending cords and thickening them around the host. Over many years, the lattice tightens, the crown expands, and the original support tree may be shaded, stressed, and eventually lost. What remains can look like a hollow pillar of woven trunks, a fig shaped by conquest. Few plant stories are more dramatic. A life that starts as a small guest in the treetops can become a towering survivor built around the memory of another tree. Certain vines anchor themselves with clinging roots along walls. Some climbing plants do not rely on twining stems or tendrils. Instead, they produce short, adventitious roots along their stems that press directly against bark, brick, stone, or wood. These little anchors help the vine hold fast as it ascends toward better light. In species such as climbing hydrangea, the effect can be extraordinary. A surface that seems too sheer for ordinary growth becomes a vertical pathway. The plant is not drilling into the wall in the dramatic way people sometimes imagine. It is using many tiny contacts to create grip, spreading its weight across countless points as it rises. This allows it to turn trunks, cliffs, and buildings into living supports. The result can look almost impossible, as though greenery has learned to defy gravity by sheer persistence. Once you notice these clinging roots, every vine-covered wall begins to tell a different story, one of incremental attachment and upward ambition. Ivy roots grip stone without ever drilling into it. English ivy is often accused of boring into masonry, but its clinging organs do something subtler. The plant produces masses of tiny, adventitious roots that press against surfaces and secrete adhesive compounds, allowing the stems to stick tightly as they climb. On sound walls, this is more a matter of grip than drilling. The roots settle into microscopic irregularities and hold fast through chemistry and contact, rather than forceful penetration. Problems can still arise if masonry is already damaged, because the dense cover can trap moisture or exploit existing cracks, but the basic mechanism is not that of a green drill bit boring into stone. It is more elegant than that. The plant coats, grips, and persists. This gives ivy its remarkable ability to sheet across old ruins, trunks, and house fronts with apparent ease. Beneath that graceful cover is a legion of tiny adhesive roots, each one helping turn a vertical surface into living ground. Epiphytes prove that not every root needs ordinary soil. Some of the most fascinating root systems on Earth belong to plants that never touch the ground at all. Epiphytes grow on trees, branches, and other elevated surfaces, using them as supports rather than as food sources. Their roots may cling, absorb water from rain or fog, trap falling debris, or form pockets that gather organic matter high in the canopy. Bromeliads, many orchids, and other epiphytes have turned the treetops into a second landscape where soil is replaced by bark, moss, mist, and accumulated dust. This changes the whole image of what roots are for. They do not always anchor a plant in the earth beneath it. Sometimes they suspend a plant in air and make a life out of passing moisture and scattered particles. In the upper branches of a forest, entire gardens can exist without ever touching the ground. There, roots become tools for altitude, improvisation, and life above the floor. Roots and fungi form alliances older than the first forests. Long before towering trunks and deep shade existed, early land plants were already making deals underground. Fossil evidence suggests that ancient plant ancestors partnered with fungi hundreds of millions of years ago, back when the continents were still bare in many places and true forests had not yet appeared. Those fungal partners could explore tiny spaces in rock and soil that primitive plants could not reach alone. In return, the plants supplied carbon made from sunlight. It was a trade so successful that it helped change the history of life on land. Instead of facing the dry, mineral world by themselves, plants arrived with allies. That partnership likely helped them gain water, gather scarce nutrients, and survive in hostile ground long before roots became as complex as they are now. So when a modern root joins with fungi, it is not doing something new. It is continuing one of the oldest and most important collaborations Earth has ever known. Mycorrhizal fungi can expand a root's reach many times over. A root can only touch the soil it physically grows through, but a fungal partner can extend that reach into an almost invisible network far beyond the plant's own tissues. Fine hyphae spread through tiny pores and narrow films of moisture that roots cannot easily enter, searching for phosphorus, nitrogen, trace minerals, and water. This effectively turns the plant's foraging system into something much larger than its own body. A seedling with fungal help may access a zone of resources many times bigger than one growing alone. That added reach can decide whether a plant merely survives or truly thrives. In poor soils, it can be the difference between failure and success. The astonishing part is the scale. The forest floor that seems solid to us becomes, for fungi, an enormous navigable labyrinth. Through that labyrinth, they carry resources back to the plant and transform a limited root system into a far wider underground presence. Some seedlings cannot survive without fungal partners in the soil. To certain young plants, the first days of life are not a solo struggle. They begin in dependence. Many orchids are the most dramatic example. Their seeds are so tiny and stripped down that they carry almost no stored food at all. When they germinate, they cannot simply power themselves into independent growth. They must connect with fungi, that enter their tissues and supply the compounds needed to get started. Without that help, the seedling may never truly become a plant. This turns the beginning of life into a biological gamble shaped by invisible companionship. A seed can land in the right light and the right moisture, yet still fail if the needed fungal partner is absent. That is astonishing when you stop to picture it. The future flower, however beautiful, begins as a near wakeless speck whose fate depends on contact with a hidden ally already living in the soil or bark around it. Roots can feed fungi, and fungi can feed roots. This exchange is not one-sided. It is a genuine trade, and both partners bring something the other cannot make or gather as efficiently. The plant supplies carbon-rich compounds produced in the light above ground. The fungus delivers minerals and water gathered from the dark below. That means sunlight caught in leaves can end up feeding an organism in the soil, while nutrients found in tiny crevices can travel back into a stem that may grow meters above the ground. It is a beautiful circulation between two forms of life that live in different worlds and yet depend on each other intimately. In some cases, a significant share of a plant's carbon budget may be sent downward into these partnerships. That is a huge investment, which tells you how valuable the return must be. Beneath an ordinary meadow or woodland, energy and matter are moving in both directions, linking leaf and fungus in a continuous underground exchange. Underground symbiosis helped early plants spread across barren land. The first landscapes colonized by plants were not welcoming gardens. They were dry, rocky, unstable surfaces with little true soil and few of the rich nutrient cycles we take for granted now. For early land plants, survival required more than simply standing upright in the sun. They needed help acquiring water and minerals from a difficult world. Partnerships below ground appear to have been one of the great answers. Fungal associates could explore rock surfaces, reach into microscopic spaces, and help unlock nutrients from raw mineral ground. That support may have allowed fragile pioneers to establish themselves where they otherwise would have failed. Once those early plants persisted, they began reshaping the land itself by contributing organic matter, trapping sediments, and helping build the first more complex soils. In that sense, underground symbiosis did not just help a few plants survive. It helped turn lifeless surfaces into habitable environments, opening the way for entire terrestrial ecosystems to follow. Root nodules let legumes host bacteria that capture nitrogen. Nitrogen is everywhere in the atmosphere, yet most plants cannot use it in that form. Legumes solved part of that problem with one of the most remarkable partnerships in nature. They form nodules on their roots, small, swelling structures that house bacteria capable of converting atmospheric nitrogen into compounds the plant can actually use to build proteins and grow. Inside those nodules, the plant carefully controls conditions to support the microbes while shielding the delicate chemistry involved. It is not a casual arrangement. It is a highly managed biological collaboration built into the architecture of the root. That is why peas, beans, clovers, and many of their relatives can enrich soils that would otherwise be much poorer. They are effectively able to tap into the vast reservoir of nitrogen overhead through invisible workers below. A root nodule may look modest, but inside it, air is being turned into fertility by living chemistry. Beans and peas grow fertilizer factories directly on their roots. To call them factories is hardly an exaggeration. On the roots of these familiar crops, small nodules develop where specialized bacteria work day and night, converting atmospheric nitrogen into forms the plant can use. That process demands energy, so the host sends sugars downward to fuel it, and in return, it receives a source of fertility built into its own body. Farmers have benefited from this for thousands of years, even before the chemistry was understood. Rotating fields with legumes could improve the soil for the crops that followed. what looks like an ordinary pea plant is therefore carrying a hidden industrial system underground, powered by sunlight and run by microbes. This also changes the way we see humble garden plants. Beneath their soft leaves and curling tendrils, they may be performing one of agriculture's most valuable tricks. They are not just growing in the soil. They are actively helping make the soil richer as they grow. Alder trees also partner with microbes in nodules underground. Legumes are not the only plants to evolve this kind of alliance. Alder trees, which often grow along rivers, floodplains, and disturbed ground, form nodules with nitrogen-fixing microbes called frankia. These actinomycetes are not the same bacteria found in peas and beans, yet the result is similarly powerful. The tree gains access to nitrogen in places where the soil may be young, leached, or poor, and that can help alder colonize raw landscapes with unusual speed. This is one reason alders are often among the first woody plants to establish after landslides, volcanic disturbance, or glacial retreat. They do not merely survive difficult ground. They begin improving it. Leaf litter falls, nutrients accumulate, and the conditions become more welcoming for species that follow. That gives alder a kind of ecological generosity rooted in chemistry. Hidden below its trunk, microbes are helping a pioneer tree convert difficult terrain into the beginning of a future forest. Some roots can recruit helpful microbes from the soil nearby. A plant is not limited to the microbial community it happens to inherit. Through the compounds it releases into the surrounding zone, it can influence which organisms gather near it and which do not. Sugars, amino acids, organic acids, and many other molecules leak or are deliberately secreted into the soil, and those chemicals can attract microbes that help defend the plant, improve nutrient access, support growth under stress. In effect, a root can shape its own immediate company. This is especially striking because it means the plant is not merely absorbing from the earth. It is actively managing the life around it. A root under pressure from disease may encourage allies that suppress pathogens. A root in nutrient-poor ground may favor helpers that free useful compounds from the soil. Beneath a patch of green, there may be a quiet recruitment campaign underway, with chemistry acting as invitation, filter, and negotiation all at once. A plant's microbiome begins around the chemistry of its roots. The community of microbes associated with a plant does not assemble at random. It begins in the chemical halo around the root, where secreted compounds, sloughed cells, and changing conditions create a selective environment. Some microbes flourish there because they can digest certain substances. Others are excluded because the chemistry does not suit them, or because competitors get there first. Over time, this shapes a distinctive microbial neighborhood around each plant, or even around different parts of the same root system. That community can influence growth, disease resistance, nutrient uptake, and stress tolerance in ways we are only beginning to understand fully. It is a little like a city growing around available resources and local rules. The plant lays down the conditions, and life assembles in response. Once you grasp that, a root stops being a solitary organ. It becomes the center of a living consortium, with chemistry setting the terms for the microscopic society that gathers around it. Roots leak sugars, and that changes the whole neighborhood. A plant does not keep every product of photosynthesis locked inside itself. Some of the carbon made in leaves ends up released into the soil as sugars and other compounds around the roots. At first, that sounds wasteful, almost reckless. Why give away precious energy underground? Yet those leaked resources can feed microbes that help the plant later, alter the chemistry of the surrounding zone, and drive a whole miniature food web beneath the surface. Bacteria, fungi, protozoa, and tiny animals respond to that carbon pulse, and their activity can reshape how nutrients move and who thrives nearby. In other words, a root can transform the neighborhood simply by feeding it. The effect is immense because even small leaks become significant when multiplied across entire fields, forests, and seasons. Beneath the soil, life often follows carbon, and plants are among the great suppliers. What seems like a quiet loss can become a powerful act of ecosystem engineering. The rhizosphere is a crowded frontier wrapped around every root. The soil immediately surrounding a root is not ordinary soil anymore. It becomes a highly active zone called the rhizosphere, where chemistry, biology, and competition intensify. In that narrow space, roots release compounds, microbes multiply rapidly, nutrients are transformed, and tiny predators hunt the organisms feeding on root exudates. It is one of the busiest places in any ecosystem, even though it is measured in millimeters. Imagine the border of a growing city where trade, conflict, migration, and construction are all happening at once. That is something like the rhizosphere. Conditions there can be very different from the bulk soil just a short distance away. Acidity changes. Oxygen levels shift. Populations rise and fall quickly. For the plant, this is the front line where much of its contact with the wider soil world takes place. Every living root carries its own active frontier, and the earth is filled with these hidden borders wherever plants grow. Billions of microbes may live around a single gram of root. What looks like a clean strand of plant tissue is, at a microscopic scale, more like the center of an immense metropolis. The area around roots can host astonishing numbers of bacteria and other microbes, with populations so dense that a gram of root-associated soil may contain billions of organisms. They are not merely present. They are feeding, competing, signaling, reproducing, and transforming chemicals every moment. This means that even a small handful of earth around a healthy plant may contain a level of biological activity that is hard to imagine. Invisible crowds cluster around the source of carbon and nutrients, drawn by the opportunities roots create. Some of these microbes help the plant. Some challenge it. Many simply take part in the larger cycling of matter that makes soil fertile and dynamic. Once you understand the density of life there, their soil becomes impossible to see as empty. Around every root, there is an entire microbial civilization at work. Roots can shape which bacteria thrive beside them. Different plants do not host exactly the same microbial company, and much of that difference begins with the traits of their roots. The compounds they release, the timing of that release, the acidity they create, and the structure of the surrounding tissues all help determine which bacteria flourish in their vicinity. A root can therefore act like a selective environment, favoring certain lineages while discouraging others. Over time, this can give each plant species, and sometimes each variety, its own characteristic microbial pattern. That matters because bacteria are not passive decoration. They influence disease, nutrient availability, growth rates, and resilience under stress. A plant may therefore be shaping its own prospects by shaping its bacterial neighbors first. This adds another layer to the hidden complexity of roots. They are not just entering the soil and taking what they find. They are helping decide which microscopic partners and competitors get to dominate the world immediately beside them. Chemical exudates let roots farm tiny allies in darkness. A farmer does not always work in sunlight. Every day, plants release molecules into the soil that can be understood as a kind of underground cultivation. These exudates feed specific microbes, encourage useful communities, and help establish relationships that benefit the plant later. In that sense, roots are not only foraging, they are farming. They invest carbon below ground in order to nurture allies that can return services, from improving nutrient access to suppressing disease. The image is extraordinary when you sit with it. In complete darkness, without hands or thought, A plant is managing a microscopic support system through chemistry alone. It does not plow or sow, yet it can enrich the zone around itself with the organisms it needs most. This is not agriculture in the human sense, but the parallel is hard to ignore. A root can cultivate its own assistants, building an invisible workforce out of bacteria and fungi hidden in the earth. Some plants poison the soil around their roots on purpose. Competition in the plant world is not always passive. Some species release chemicals into the surrounding ground that reduce the success of nearby rivals. This phenomenon, called allelopathy, lets a plant alter the environment in ways that make life harder for competitors trying to germinate, grow, or establish nearby. Instead of merely fighting for light and water, the plant changes the rules of the local soil. The effect can vary depending on species, conditions, and microbial activity, but in some cases it is powerful enough to reshape whole plant communities. It is a startling reminder that roots are not only tools of nourishment, they can also be weapons. A seemingly peaceful patch of vegetation may therefore conceal biochemical conflict below the surface. Seeds arrive, roots spread, and then the soil itself becomes hostile because one plant has laced it with compounds that tilt the contest in its own favor. Black walnut roots release juglone, which hinders nearby rivals. Black walnut is one of the most famous examples of underground chemical interference. It produces a compound called juglone, which can affect the growth of many neighboring plants. Sensitive species may yellow, wilt, or fail when growing too close, especially if leaves, husks, and roots from the tree contribute to the local buildup. This does not mean nothing can live near a black walnut. Many plants tolerate it well enough. But for susceptible species, the area around the tree can become a difficult place to survive. That gives black walnut a kind of biochemical presence extending beyond its trunk and shade. The tree influences its surroundings not only by taking resources, but by changing the chemical terms of coexistence. Gardeners learn this the hard way when tomatoes or other vulnerable crops struggle nearby. The lesson is unforgettable. A tree can defend its zone not with motion or noise, but with molecules quietly released into the earth. Garlic mustard can disrupt fungal networks native roots depend on. This invasive plant does not merely crowd native species above ground. It can interfere with the underground relationships many forest plants rely on. Garlic mustard releases compounds that suppress certain mycorrhizal fungi, and that matters because numerous native trees and herbs depend on those fungi for nutrient access and healthy establishment. When the fungal partners are damaged, the native plants may lose one of their most important advantages in the soil. This gives garlic mustard a way to weaken a community without directly attacking each plant in the obvious sense. It is more like sabotage than simple competition. A woodland may still look green and intact for a while, yet beneath the leaf litter, the support system is being undermined. That is what makes the invasion so striking. One herb can change the terms of underground cooperation across a forest floor. By disrupting the hidden alliances of others, it makes room for itself to spread more easily. Invasive plants sometimes win by rewriting underground chemistry. Not every invasion is won by faster growth alone. Some species succeed because they alter the soil environment in ways that favor themselves and disadvantage the community already there. They may release unfamiliar chemicals, change microbial composition, interfere with symbioses, or modify nutrient cycling so that the old balance no longer holds. In effect, they rewrite the underground rules. Native plants adapted to one chemical landscape suddenly find themselves living in another. The shift may be invisible at first, yet its consequences can spread through germination, disease resistance, competition, and decomposition. This is one reason invasive species can be so difficult to control. They do not always enter an ecosystem and simply join the contest. Sometimes they transform the contest itself. That is a more profound kind of disruption. A field, forest edge, or riverbank can appear unchanged to the casual eye, while below ground, the chemistry has been edited in favor of the newcomer. Healthy roots can build soil instead of merely occupying it. A living root is not just a passenger in the earth. It helps create the very medium it grows in. As roots push through the ground, they open channels, contribute organic matter, feed microbes, and leave behind decaying tissues that become part of the soil's structure. Their exudates help bind particles into aggregates, while their growth and death create pores that improve airflow and water movement. Over time, this transforms raw or degraded ground into something richer, more stable, and more alive. In prairies, forests, farms, and wetlands, much of the soil we value is partly the long result of root activity layered through years and centuries. That is a profound reversal of the usual image. We often think of soil as the thing that supports plants. Yet plants, through their roots, are also among the great makers of soil. The ground beneath our feet is, in part, built by what once grew through it. Roots help lock carbon underground for years, decades, or longer. When a plant pulls carbon dioxide from the air, part of that captured carbon does not stay in leaves or stems. A meaningful share travels downward into the underground system, where it becomes living tissue, leaked compounds, or dead material that enters the soil. Once there, some of it can remain for surprisingly long stretches of time. Fine tissues decay quickly, but other forms become bound to minerals, protected inside aggregates, or buried in places where decomposition slows. That means a root is not only feeding a plant, it can also become part of Earth's long memory of the atmosphere. Every season, countless plants are quietly pulling carbon from the sky and sending some of it beneath our feet. This changes the meaning of a field, a forest, or a wetland. They are not just landscapes. They are carbon vaults in progress, with roots acting as the delivery system that moves airborne carbon into the hidden world below. Deep-rooted plants can move carbon far below the surface. The deeper carbon goes, the less likely it is to return quickly to the air. That is one reason deep-rooted plants matter so much. Instead of concentrating all their living investment near the topsoil, they send carbon downward into layers where temperatures, oxygen, and disturbance often differ from the surface. In those deeper horizons, decomposition can slow, and some of the carbon entering the soil may remain there far longer than carbon left near the top. This gives deep-rooted vegetation a special role in the long story of climate and soil formation. A prairie forb, a shrub, or a tree can act like a biological elevator, taking carbon fixed in sunlight and moving it into places the atmosphere cannot easily reclaim. That is astonishing when you picture it clearly. A leaf catches light above. A root carries part of that captured world downward into darkness, where it may shape the soil and carbon balance for years to come. Some ecosystems store more below ground than above ground altogether. Not every landscape reveals its true riches at a glance. In some ecosystems, especially grasslands, peatlands, and certain tundra regions, the mass and stored carbon hidden below ground can rival or exceed what stands in plain view. A meadow may look modest compared with a forest, yet much of its substance lies under the surface in roots, organic matter, and accumulated soil carbon. The visible plants are only the announcement. The real archive is buried. This is part of what makes open landscapes so deceptive. They can seem sparse, simple, or even empty to an untrained eye, while beneath them lies a dense record of growth, decay, storage, and life. It also means that disturbance can release losses people never suspected were there. Dig, drain, or erode the land, and an unseen reservoir can begin to disappear. Some of Earth's richest biological savings accounts are hidden not in towering trunks, but in the dark below. Grassland roots make prairies powerful guardians of buried carbon. Prairies do not rely on wood to endure. They invest heavily underground, building dense systems that feed the soil year after year and help store carbon in ways forests do not always match on the same terms. Grasses and wildflowers grow, die back, and regrow, sending a steady flow of material into the earth through turnover, exudates, and buried tissues. Over long spans, this can create dark, carbon-rich soils of extraordinary depth and fertility. Some of the greatest agricultural soils on Earth began this way, built by generations of roots quietly enriching the ground beneath open skies. That is why destroying prairie can mean losing something far bigger than a field of waving stems. It can mean damaging a carbon store centuries in the making. The true strength of a prairie is not only in what survives fire and drought above ground. It is in the patient underground accumulation that turns grasslands into powerful keepers of buried carbon. Root turnover quietly feeds earthworms, fungi, and hidden food webs. Roots are not permanent fixtures. Many are continually born, used, and lost, especially the finer parts that do much of the plant's foraging. When those tissues die, they do not vanish into nothing. They become food. Earthworms consume and mix the decaying material. Fungi invade and digest it. Bacteria break it into smaller compounds. Tiny invertebrates graze on the microbes, and predators feed on them in turn. A whole food web can be supported by the quiet turnover of underground plant parts alone. This means a plant is nourishing the world beneath it, even after sections of it die. The loss of one fine thread can become the beginning of many other lives. Much of the energy flow in soil starts this way, not with dramatic events, but with countless tiny endings happening every day. Beneath any healthy landscape, turnover is feeding an underground community so rich and active that it rivals the unseen complexity of coral reefs. Dead roots leave tunnels that help water enter soil. When a root dies and decays, it leaves behind more than organic matter. It leaves architecture. The narrow channels it once occupied can remain as tiny pathways through the soil, especially in structured ground where those voids are stabilized by surrounding particles and biological activity. Water can then move into those old passages more easily than through compacted earth, slipping downward rather than running off the surface. Future roots may also follow them, along with fungi, microbes, and small soil animals. In that sense, a vanished root continues shaping the land after its own life is over. It becomes a corridor. This has profound effects in healthy soils, while layers of old channels can improve infiltration, reduce erosion, and help the ground behave like a sponge rather than a hard shell. A storm falling on well-rooted earth meets not emptiness, but a legacy of former growth, a hidden network of tiny doors left open by roots that came before. Roots can reduce erosion by sewing loose ground together. Bare soil is vulnerable. Rain can strike it loose, wind can lift it, and flowing water can carry it away, grain by grain. Root systems push against that loss by threading through the earth and binding particles into a more resistant fabric. Fine branches wrap around small aggregates. Larger structures anchor the mass more deeply, and the plant above helps soften the impact of rain and slow surface flow. The effect is so important that slopes, stream edges, and disturbed ground often remain stable or fail depending on whether healthy underground systems are present. To picture it clearly, think of loose cloth compared with stitched cloth. Roots are the stitches. They do not stop all movement, but they greatly increase the ground's ability to hold together under stress. This is why vegetation matters so much after construction, wildfire, or clearing. Without those hidden stitches, the earth can begin to unravel with startling speed. Riverbank roots help hold land against floods and current. At the edge of moving water, the struggle is constant. Rivers undercut, scour, and pull at their banks with every flood, pulse, and change in flow. Vegetation helps resist that force by anchoring the bank from within. Roots bind sediment, reinforce soil layers, and increase the shear strength of the ground so it is harder for water to tear away. Trees, shrubs, reeds, and grasses all play roles depending on the setting, and together they can make the difference between a stable bank and a collapsing one. This is why a wooded river edge often behaves so differently from a cleared bank nearby. One has hidden reinforcement, the other does not. That stability matters far beyond the plants themselves. It protects habitats, shapes channels, influences water clarity, and can even affect human roads, farms, and homes. Beneath a green river margin lies an unseen engineering system helping hold the boundary between land and current in place. Dune grasses build whole landscapes with roots and persistence. Sand dunes may look like they belong entirely to the wind, yet many of them are shaped and stabilized by plants that can survive burial, salt, drought, and shifting ground. Dune grasses send out roots and rhizomes that trap sand, bind it, and help create mounds that grow as more material gathers. Instead of being destroyed by movement, some are adapted to respond to it, rising through newly deposited sand and continuing to anchor the growing dune. Over time, this turns wandering grains into structured landforms. A shoreline that seems wild and temporary can therefore depend on patient underground growth for its very shape. Remove the vegetation, and the dune may weaken and migrate in destructive ways. Leave it intact, and the plants become quiet landscape builders. It is one of the most beautiful examples of roots changing geography. A grass that looks fragile in the wind may, beneath the surface, be holding an entire coastline together. After fire, surviving roots can help ecosystems return surprisingly fast. A burned landscape can look finished, blackened, emptied, and silent. Yet in many ecosystems, the real story continues underground. Heat may destroy leaves, stems, and even whole canopies, while buried tissues remain alive below the zone of greatest damage. Those surviving roots carry stored energy, intact buds, and access to water and soil that is suddenly less crowded by above-ground competition. As a result, green shoots can return with astonishing speed after flames pass. What seems like rebirth from ashes is often resurgence from survival. This is why some grasslands, shrublands, and forests can recover so quickly after fire. They were never entirely gone. Their hidden structures endured. The fire changed the visible world dramatically, but it did not erase the living infrastructure underneath. That gives burned ground a different emotional meaning. It is not always a blank beginning. Often, it is a pause before stored life pushes upward again through ash and altered light. Many trees sprout from roots after trunks are damaged. A damaged trunk does not always mean the end of a tree's story. In some species, roots can give rise to new shoots when the stem above is cut, burned, broken, or otherwise stressed. These root suckers emerge from buds associated with the underground system and can grow into new stems that continue the genetic line even when the original trunk is compromised. This ability is a remarkable form of resilience. It means the plant's identity is not confined to the visible trunk rising above ground. It is distributed into the hidden system below, where backup possibilities wait in reserve. After storm damage, browsing, or human cutting, what looks like recovery may actually be a new expression arising from the same buried organism. Landscapes shaped by coppicing, beavers, or repeated disturbance often depend on this trait. the visible tree can be lost, yet the living presence remains in the roots, ready to return in a different form. Eucalyptus can recover from fire using hidden reserves below ground. In fire-prone Australian landscapes, many eucalyptus species endure repeated burning through strategies that reach beneath the surface. Some rely on underground lignure tubers, swollen woody structures rich in stored energy and dormant buds. When the canopy is scorched or the stem is damaged, these reserves can fuel a rapid burst of regrowth. Shoots emerge from protected tissues after the flames pass, drawing on carbon saved from earlier seasons. This is one reason eucalyptus-dominated ecosystems can rebound so quickly after severe fire. Their survival plan is not only written in bark and leaves, but in hidden structures the fire often cannot fully destroy. The sight is extraordinary. After a burn, blackened trunks may stand above ground that already carries fresh growth from beneath. It looks almost impossible until you understand the reserve waiting below. In those landscapes, recovery is not an improvised miracle. It is an ancient design, stored under the soil in readiness for flame. Aspen forests often return from roots after flames pass through. A fire can sweep through an aspen stand and appear to erase it, especially if the thin bark of the trunks offers little protection. Yet the underground system can survive and respond with explosive vigor. After the overstory is removed, sunlight pours onto the forest floor, and hormonal signals shift throughout the buried network. The result can be a flush of new shoots rising from roots across the burned area, sometimes in astonishing numbers. What looked like destruction becomes the trigger for renewal. Entire young aspen stands may therefore appear after fire, not because seeds arrived from somewhere else, but because the old hidden organism was released into a new phase of growth. This gives aspen landscapes a peculiar rhythm of loss and return. The visible forest may be temporary, while the deeper continuity persists below. Fire does not always end the story. In many aspen systems, it helps the root network begin speaking again through thousands of new stems. Some weeds regenerate from tiny root fragments left behind. Anyone who has tried to clear certain invasive or persistent plants knows the frustration. Pull the visible growth, disturb the soil, and a short time later, the plant is back. In some species, even small pieces of underground tissue left in the ground can regenerate into new growth. That makes cultivation, digging, or incomplete removal a dangerous game. Instead of eliminating the plant, you may be accidentally planting it in pieces. This ability gives certain weeds a powerful advantage in disturbed environments, where cutting and turning the soil can distribute fragments and create ideal opportunities for regrowth. It also reveals how much life and developmental potential can be stored in underground tissue. A piece that looks dead or harmless may contain buds, nutrients, and the capacity to rebuild a whole plant. Beneath the gardener's frustration lies an astonishing biological fact. For some weeds, the root system is not merely support. It is a hidden machine for comeback. A broken root can become a whole new plant. In some species, injury is not simply damage. It is opportunity. A segment of root separated from the parent may still contain living tissues capable of producing new shoots and new roots, effectively rebuilding the entire organism from a fragment. This regenerative power is one reason certain plants spread so successfully, and why disturbance sometimes helps rather than harms them. It also blurs the line between part and whole. A root is not always just one organ among others. Under the right conditions, it can become the starting point for an entirely new individual. That possibility feels almost animal in its strangeness, yet it is fully botanical and often very practical. Plants use developmental flexibility in ways that challenge our ordinary categories. The living instructions are not stored in a single place. They are distributed more widely than many people imagine. Break the plant, and in some cases the pieces still remember how to become complete. Gardeners clone certain plants using cuttings made from roots. Propagation is often associated with stems, leaves, or seeds, but some plants can be copied from sections of underground tissue taken at the right time and handled correctly. Gardeners use root cuttings with species such as poppies, blackberries, phlox, and some ornamental shrubs, because those pieces can produce buds and then grow into independent plants genetically identical to the as parent. It is a wonderfully direct form of cloning. A root that once served one plant's hidden life becomes the starting material for another. This works because certain species keep the developmental machinery needed for shoot formation in tissues below ground, ready to activate when conditions change. The practice feels almost like a secret once you first encounter it. You are not sowing a seed or grafting a branch. You are taking a buried fragment and inviting it to rewrite itself into a whole new plant. The underground system becomes not just support, but a source of duplication. Dandelions are hard to remove because their roots go deep. The familiar yellow flower and fluffy seed head are only the public face of a far more persistent design. Below the surface, a dandelion develops a strong taproot that dives downward and stores reserves. If the upper part is removed while enough of that root remains, the plant can often recover and send up new growth. This is why a quick tug that snaps the root near the top may solve nothing. The visible rosette disappears for a moment, and then the plant returns, as if it had barely noticed. That deep central structure also helps the plant survive drought and exploit compacted urban soils, cracks, lawns, and disturbed ground where more delicate species struggle. It is a small masterpiece of resilience disguised as a common weed. Once you understand what lies beneath, the dandelion stops seeming ordinary. It becomes a lesson in persistence, built around one descending root that refuses to surrender easily. Horseradish can spread from overlooked root pieces in the soil. Horseradish has been valued for centuries for the fierce flavor stored in its roots, yet that same buried strength can make it unexpectedly persistent in gardens. If pieces remain in the ground after harvest or attempted removal, they may generate new shoots and re-establish the plant. The pungent condiment on the table begins as a crop, with an underground habit of not letting go easily. For gardeners, this can turn a patch into a long relationship, rather than a one-season experiment. For the plant, it is an excellent survival strategy. Disturbance that might kill other species can instead help distribute fragments capable of regrowth. That makes horseradish both useful and unruly, a combination that often marks the most interesting cultivated plants. Its flavor may be dramatic above ground in the kitchen, but the deeper fascination lies in how tenaciously the crop persists below. A forgotten piece in the soil can become next year's harvest without asking permission. Taproots give some plants a powerful first foothold. For a young seedling entering an uncertain world, speed matters. In many species, the earliest underground strategy is to drive one main root downward as efficiently as possible. This taproot can anchor the plant quickly, access deeper moisture than shallow competitors, and create a direct line of support during the vulnerable first stage of life. In dry or seasonally harsh environments, that early descent can determine survival. Before the stem above grows much at all, the plant may already be investing heavily in a single deepening axis below. Over time, that central structure may remain dominant or become the base for a wider network, but its first achievement is crucial. It gives the seedling a foothold when weather, grazing, or shifting soil could otherwise end the attempt. There is something almost heroic about that first downward push. A tiny germinating seed responds to uncertainty by sending a spear into the earth and holding on. Fibrous roots trade depth for dense, gripping coverage. Not every plant bets on one deep central descent. Many grasses and other species build a dense mesh of countless fine roots instead, spreading through the upper layers in a broad and intricate web. This fibrous arrangement is excellent for capturing surface moisture, exploiting nutrient-rich topsoil, and gripping loose ground across a wide area. It also allows rapid recovery after cutting or grazing because the system is distributed rather than concentrated in one major axis. In practical terms, this is why lawns hold together, why cereal crops can occupy fields so effectively, and why many erosion control plantings rely on species with dense, shallow networks. The strategy is different from a taproot, but no less impressive. Instead of a spear, it is a net. Instead of reaching one place first, it occupies many places at once. Beneath a simple mat of grass may lie an astonishingly intricate gripping system built for coverage, persistence, and fast response. Ancient farmers unknowingly bred roots for sweetness, size, and color. Long before genetics existed as a science, people were already running one of the most powerful breeding experiments in history. In fields and gardens, they saved seed from the plants whose underground parts tasted better, stored longer, grew larger, or looked more appealing. Over generations, those quiet choices changed the shape of entire crops. Bitter became milder, thin became thick, tough and woody became tender enough for the table. Even color shifted as people favored roots that were richer, brighter, or more unusual. What began as survival slowly became selection, and selection became transformation. A wild root that once served only as a modest reserve for a plant could become a food that helped feed villages and empires. This is one of the great hidden stories of agriculture. Human taste, patience, and repetition reached into the dark below-ground world and reshaped it, turning ordinary roots into crops we now take completely for granted. Wild carrots began as thin, pale roots before cultivation. The modern carrot looks so familiar that it is easy to imagine it always existed in this form, thick, colorful, and sweet enough to eat raw. But its ancestors were very different. Wild carrots were slender, fibrous, and often pale, with a texture and flavor that would have felt far less generous at the table. They were not built for human comfort. They were built for survival. Over long periods of cultivation, people chose the plants whose roots were a little larger, a little less harsh, and a little more useful. The change did not happen in one dramatic leap. It accumulated. By saving seed from the best specimens again and again, farmers gradually turned a narrow, stubborn root into one of the most recognizable vegetables on Earth. That is a remarkable act of partnership across time. The carrot in a market today is not just a plant. It is the long memory of human preference written into a root. Beets, radishes, turnips, and parsnips are all different root stories. At first glance, these vegetables seem to belong to one simple category. They are all pulled from the soil, all swollen with stored food, and all shaped by underground growth. Yet each one tells a different botanical and cultural story. Radishes often race toward maturity, becoming crisp and peppery in a short burst of growth. Parsnips develop sweetness through cold, which changes their chemistry and deepens their flavor. Turnips have been staple food, animal feed, and winter insurance across entire regions. Beets, with their rich pigments and earthy taste, took a different path again, becoming food, fodder, and even a source of industrial sugar in some forms. What unites them is not sameness, but a shared strategy of storage interpreted in different ways by evolution and by agriculture. Beneath the idea of a root vegetable lies real variety, with each crop offering its own version of how a plant hides energy underground and how humans learned to value it. Ginseng became precious because people prized the shape of its roots. Part of ginseng's power in human imagination came not only from chemistry, but from resemblance. The forked, pale root of mature plants sometimes suggested a tiny human body, with limb-like branches and a central form that felt uncannily familiar. Across cultures, that resemblance helped feed the belief that the plant had special value for human vitality. In traditional medicine, symbolism and observation often intertwined, and a root that looked human could seem destined to affect human strength, balance, or longevity. Scarcity made the story even more potent. Slow growth, difficult harvesting, and the prestige attached to old, well-formed specimens turned ginseng into a plant of high economic and cultural weight. People searched forests for it, with the focus usually reserved for buried treasure. That is what makes it so fascinating. A root became precious not just because of what it contained, but because its form invited people to see themselves in it. Mandrake roots inspired myths because they sometimes looked eerily human. Few plants have cast such a strange shadow across folklore as mandrake. Its root can split and branch in ways that make it resemble a small figure, and for earlier observers that resemblance was more than a curiosity. It felt charged with meaning. The plant entered myth, medicine, fear, and magic, becoming associated with human fertility, dangerous power, and stories so vivid they survived for centuries. One of the most famous claimed that pulling the root from the ground would unleash a deadly scream. That image stayed alive because the root itself already looked uncanny enough to invite it. A plant hidden in darkness, then lifted into the light in a form that echoes the human body, is almost designed to stir imagination. Mandrake reminds us that roots have never belonged only to botany. They have lived in culture too, where shape alone could turn an underground organ into one of the most haunted objects in herbal history. Licorice flavor begins in a root, not a seed. The familiar taste of licorice, sweet, deep, and unmistakable, does not come from a fruit or spice in the ordinary sense. It comes from the underground system of a plant whose roots contain glycyrrhizine, a compound far sweeter than sugar and powerful enough to define an entire flavor tradition. For centuries, people have dug, dried, and processed those roots for medicine, sweets, drinks, and chewing sticks. That means the taste associated with candy aisles and herbal preparations begins in something hidden beneath the soil, where the plant stores chemistry rather than spectacle. There is something delightfully surprising about that. A flavor many people would guess comes from seeds or bark is actually rooted in subterranean tissue. It also shows how deeply plant chemistry and human culture intertwine. Beneath an ordinary patch of growth, a plant is manufacturing a compound that can end up in confections, pharmacies, and memory itself, all beginning in a buried source. Vetiver roots are prized because they smell rich and earthy. Most roots are known for function, not fragrance, but vetiver breaks that expectation beautifully. Its dense underground system contains aromatic compounds that become especially valued after drying and distillation, producing a scent that is smoky, woody, earthy, and complex enough to anchor some of the world's great perfumes. The surprise lies partly in where that fragrance comes from. It is not gathered from petals or fruit, but from the plant's hidden foundation. A grass that might look ordinary above ground carries a luxurious secret below. That same root system also helps stabilize soil, which makes the plant doubly remarkable. It protects landscapes while producing one of perfumery's most beloved materials. To smell vetiver is to encounter the character of the underground translated into scent. Cool earth after rain, dry roots, depth and shadow. Few plants capture the hidden world so directly. In vetiver, the root does not merely support beauty. It becomes beauty in another form. Wasabi's famous bite does not come from a true root. The fiery rush people associate with wasabi seems like the kind of thing a root might hide, buried and defended beneath the soil. Yet the plant part commonly used is not a true root at all. It is a rhizome, which is a modified stem that grows horizontally and carries the structural traits of stem tissue rather than root tissue. That distinction may sound technical, but it matters because it reveals how misleading appearances can be underground. What looks root-like, grows low, and ends up grated on the plate may actually belong to a different part of the plant body entirely. The pungent compounds released when wasabi is crushed are part of the defense system, and those sharp vapors are famously brief, blooming fast and fading quickly. So, one of the world's most dramatic tastes comes from a mistaken identity in common speech. People call it a root, but botanically, the story runs through a stem adapted for life below ground. Turmeric and ginger look root-like, but they are rhizomes. In kitchens all over the world, people slice, grate, dry, and grind structures that are often casually called roots. Yet both turmeric and ginger are actually rhizomes, underground stems that store energy and send up shoots and down roots from their nodes. That means the warm golden flesh of turmeric and the bright, spicy body of ginger come from stem tissue reshaped for subterranean life. The distinction is more than academic. Rhizomes can branch, carry buds, and spread in ways true roots do not, which helps explain how these plants grow, reproduce, and are propagated in cultivation. Once you know this, the ingredients feel even more interesting. They are not just buried food stores. They are hidden stems packed with flavor, medicine, and history. Entire cuisines and healing traditions have been built around them. Beneath the soil, the plant body becomes rearranged into something both familiar and surprising, a stem that behaves like treasure underground. Not every underground plant part is botanically a root. This is one of the great lessons hidden in ordinary gardening language. Anything swollen, buried, or dug up is often casually called a root, yet underground plant parts come from several different structures. Some are true roots. Others are tubers, bulbs, corms, or rhizomes, each built from different tissues and carrying different developmental possibilities. A potato has eyes because it is stem-based. An onion is built around layered leaf bases. A sweet potato is a true storage root. Ginger is a rhizome. These differences shape how plants spread, how they are propagated, and how they survive stress from one season to the next. It also changes the way you look at the soil itself. Beneath the ground is not one simple category of hidden plant matter. It is a collection of different inventions, each solving storage, survival, and regrowth in its own way. The underground world is more anatomically diverse than common speech ever suggests. Some fossil roots still mark the first forests on Earth. In certain ancient rocks, scientists have found the traces of root systems from some of the earliest forests our planet ever grew. These fossils may appear as branching patterns, altered sediment structures, or distinct horizons in old soils where underground tissues once lived and decayed. They matter because they record a turning point in Earth's history. Before forests, land surfaces were very different, more exposed, less biologically structured, and far less capable of supporting the complex ecosystems that would come later. The arrival of deep and widespread underground systems changed not only the plants themselves, but also the ground beneath them and the rivers flowing past them. To encounter a fossil root is to meet evidence of one of the most transformative biological shifts on the planet. It is a trace of the moment life began building true wooded landscapes on land. Long after the trunks vanished, the underground signatures remained written into stone. Ancient root systems changed rock, rivers, and the carbon cycle. Once plants began extending more substantial underground systems into land surfaces, they did far more than anchor themselves. They intensified weathering by breaking rock physically and chemically, helping release minerals and generate thicker soils. They altered how rain moved through the land, which affected runoff, sediment transport, and the very behavior of rivers. Channels deepened and stabilized differently once vegetation began gripping banks and intercepting water. At the same time, plants were drawing carbon dioxide from the atmosphere and influencing where that carbon ended up, in biomass, soils, and sediments. This combination made roots geological agents, not merely botanical ones. They changed landscapes from the bottom up. When we think about Earth history, we often picture volcanoes, mountain building, and oceans shaping the planet. Yet living roots deserve a place in that company. Their spread helped redirect physical and chemical processes on a planetary scale, turning plant evolution into an engine of geological change. Early roots helped create soils that complex land life needed. Without substantial soils, life on land remains limited. Water drains too quickly or pools too harshly. Nutrients are scarce, and the surface lacks the structure needed to support larger, more complex communities. Early underground plant systems helped change that. By penetrating rock and sediment, adding organic matter, trapping particles, and encouraging microbial activity, they began turning mineral surfaces into richer, more developed soils. This was not a small local effect. Over immense spans of time, it helped create the foundational medium on which later ecosystems would depend. Forests, grasslands, and the animals associated with them all inherited landscapes that had already been transformed by earlier plant activity below ground. In that sense, roots helped prepare the stage for much of terrestrial life. They were not just adapting to land. They were making land more livable. The soil we now treat as ordinary was, in part, slowly constructed by generations of plants changing the ground from within. College forests spread roots through swamps unlike anything alive today. During the Carboniferous period, vast swamp forests covered parts of the planet, filled with giant club moss relatives, horsetails, ferns, and strange trees that do not dominate modern landscapes. Their underground systems occupied wet, oxygen-poor environments that produced peat on enormous scales. Over time, some of that peat would become coal. These were not forests that simply resembled modern woodlands with different names attached. They were structurally and biologically different worlds, and their roots belonged to ecosystems with no true modern equivalent. Some grew in saturated ground for long periods, helping stabilize swampy surfaces while contributing to the accumulation of plant matter faster than it fully decayed. That imbalance was one reason so much carbon became buried. To imagine those ancient swamps is to picture a planet running under a different biological rhythm, with roots threading through murky ground beneath towering plants from a vanished botanical age. The coal burned in later centuries began in those buried forests. Roots may have helped cool Earth over geological time. Cooling a planet sounds like the work of oceans, clouds, or orbital cycles, not something hidden in soil. Yet roots may have played a real part. As plants expanded across land and developed more effective underground systems, they accelerated the weathering of rock. That weathering can draw down carbon dioxide over long timescales by helping lock carbon into dissolved ions and eventually into sediments and minerals. At the same time, expanding plant life stored carbon in biomass and soils, altering the balance of greenhouse gases in the atmosphere. This was not a quick seasonal effect. It unfolded over millions of years. But over geological time, that is precisely the scale that matters. The idea is astonishing because it turns roots into climate actors. By changing how land weathered and how carbon moved, they may have helped shift the thermal state of the whole planet. Life below ground did not just respond to Earth's climate. It may have helped shape it. Scientists can read old climates from roots preserved in ancient soils. Ancient soils, called paleosols, can preserve more than color and texture. They can also retain traces of former root systems, from branching patterns to mineral changes caused by growth and decay. These clues help scientists reconstruct past environments with surprising detail. The depth and form of the root traces can suggest how wet or dry the climate was. Their distribution may hint at vegetation type, drainage, seasonality, and soil development. In some cases, chemical signatures around ancient root channels add even more information. It is a little like reading footprints in stone, except the tracks belong to vanished underground lives. What makes this especially beautiful is that roots, once hidden from direct view, become one of the clearest ways to understand worlds that disappeared millions of years ago. A fossil leaf tells part of the story above ground. The preserved root trace tells another below, revealing climate and landscape through the architecture of buried growth. Tree rings tell one story, but roots tell another. We often look to trunks for the history of a tree. Rings can record drought, fire, rapid growth, and years of hardship or abundance. Yet the underground system holds a different kind of archive, one tied to soil, water distribution, disturbance, and the hidden constraints of the landscape. Roots may reveal where the plant had to search hardest, which layers of ground stayed hospitable, and how the tree responded to burial, erosion, injury, or shifting conditions below. Their growth is not as simple to read as a trunk cross-section, but it can tell stories the stem never could. A tree ring speaks from the visible body exposed to weather and season. A root speaks from darkness, from the world of compacted earth, hidden moisture, microbes, and obstacles. Together, they make a fuller biography. One records the skyward life. The other records the struggle and adaptation taking place where the tree actually holds on. Roboticists study root growth to design machines that burrow gently. Roots move through soil without smashing everything apart. They extend mainly from the tip, sense local conditions, and find paths of lower resistance with remarkable efficiency. Engineers have become fascinated by this because it offers a very different model from drills and digging tools. Instead of forcing their way forward by brute power, root-inspired machines might advance by growing, steering, and adjusting to the environment as they go. That approach could help create robots for exploring fragile soils, archaeological sites, disaster zones, or even other planets where disturbing the ground too harshly would be a problem. The idea is thrilling because it turns a humble plant organ into a model for future technology. Something people overlook in gardens and fields becomes inspiration for next-generation design. The quiet underground logic of roots, flexible, responsive, and precise, may help shape machines that move more like living systems than like conventional tools. Future crops may be bred for smarter, deeper root systems. For a long time, plant breeding focused heavily on what people could easily see and harvest: height, yield, fruit size, disease resistance above ground. But the future of agriculture may depend just as much on traits hidden in the soil. Crops with deeper or better arranged underground systems could find water more reliably, use nutrients more efficiently, resist drought, and build healthier soils over time. Researchers are now studying architecture, angle, branching, depth, and timing below ground with a seriousness that would have seemed unusual in earlier eras. The goal is not intelligence in the human sense, but designs that solve environmental problems more effectively. In a warming world with stressed soils and uncertain rainfall, those hidden traits could become some of the most valuable features a crop can have. Tomorrow's agricultural breakthroughs may therefore arrive not only as bigger harvests above, but as more capable underground strategies that let plants cope with harder conditions from below. The hidden architecture of roots may shape Earth more than leaves. Leaves catch the eye and catch the light, so it is easy to think of them as the main event. Yet much of a plant's deeper influence on the planet comes from below. Underground systems shape soils, store carbon, alter water flow, feed microbes, stabilize slopes, support regrowth after disturbance, and influence which ecosystems endure through drought, fire, and time. Leaves may power the plant, but roots often determine how that power enters the land itself. They are the interface between life and geology, between air and soil, between seasonal growth and long-term planetary change. That is a staggering role for something so often ignored. Forests, prairies, farms, wetlands, and deserts all depend on hidden structures doing work we rarely witness directly. The world above may be what we admire, but the world below is often what makes it possible. In that sense, roots are not the supporting cast. They may be the deeper force shaping Earth itself. As our journey through roots comes to a close, we can let the hidden world beneath us grow soft in the mind. Tonight, we traveled below the surface, into a realm that never asks to be seen, yet holds so much of life together. We followed roots as they sensed gravity and darkness, searched for water through stone and dust, traded with fungi, fed unseen worlds, and held forests, riverbanks, and grasslands in place. We wandered through ancient swamps, burning woodlands, crowded soils, and buried stores of sweetness and survival. We saw roots that breathe in mud, roots that pull bulbs deeper, roots that return after fire, and roots that helped shape the very land itself. And perhaps that is the loveliest part of all. The world is full of quiet strength we rarely notice. Beneath every tree, every field, every flower, there is a hidden architecture at work. Fine threads in the dark, slow decisions, patient persistence, life holding on, reaching out, and building from below. So now, as the day drifts farther away, you can let your thoughts do the same. Let them settle like soft soil after rain. Let your breathing grow slower and steadier. Let your body feel heavy, warm, and supported, as if the whole earth beneath you were holding you up. And if you are still awake and would like to continue wandering through the hidden wonders of the world, there will be another video waiting for you on the screen. If these sleepy journeys bring you comfort, you might like to subscribe, leave a thought below, or simply return for another quiet adventure soon. For now, there is nothing more to do. Only rest. Only breathe. Only drift. Sleep well and good night.